Good morning. Welcome to IG's early morning call. It's Thursday, the 15th of February. Let's take a look at the headlines as we see not one, but two economies officially enter recession. Japan, overnight, seeing a surprise contraction in the fourth quarter, adding to woes in the third quarter of a 3.3% decline. Ditto here in the UK. We've got the fourth quarter reading showing a contraction of 0.3% after a negative third quarter. Despite this, we've got money going into the equity markets in today's session with a look for gains across the European trading day at the start of today's session at the top of the hour. The French CAC 40 hitting a new all-time record high. Let's take a look at volatility. On the way down, second day in a row, indicating this appetite for more exposure to these risk assets. I want to take a look, first of all, at what's happening in the London markets. Strong day, despite the fact we got this technical recession. It is a backward-looking number because we're talking about the fourth quarter. Here we are now well into the second month of 2024, and we're still talking about the back end of 2023. That would be the way of looking at it if you were the government of the day, because they're not going to want to see recession headlines, which is what they're going to get. Absolutely every single newspaper now has the fact that the UK is now technically in a recession. Despite that, money going into these equity markets. German DAX, same sort of thing. After the losses that we saw on Tuesday because of that very strong print in the US economy on inflation, we saw a recovery yesterday, almost entirely the same length of candle on the way up yesterday, and we're building on that today, and we've now escaped the clutches of that drop on Tuesday. But the market I really want to talk about is what's happening in France. Now, we've seen some good numbers out today from Airbus. Airbus operates and indeed is listed across a number of European markets, most notably in France, under the old EADS ticker. Airbus AIR is the up-to-date ticker for the company. Very strong day. We're looking for gains across Airbus when things get underway later on. I'll take you through the Airbus chart in a short while. But this is the French CAC 40, now up above the prior record high at 77.04. We're pretty much at the top of the candle at 77.28. So a good start expected there at the top of the hour, especially for the French markets. Let's take a look at what's been happening overnight in the Asia-Pacific markets, with the Japanese Nikkei 225 gaining despite the fact that we've seen the Japanese economy going into recession, a 1.2% rise at the close of the session there today. Australian S&P ASX 200 also gaining. Japanese topics also up on the session in today's trade. Wall Street closed yesterday. We were talking about that big drop that we saw in the markets on Tuesday. Yesterday we saw gains, and the market's being led higher by the likes of Uber in yesterday's trade. I want to show you the Uber traded share, because this is all sessions on the IG platform. It's now gained 78% since the point at which it broke the blue line down here, which was the old IPO price. And this gain yesterday was because this is another one of these new tech stocks that's delivering numbers back to, or delivering investment returns back to shareholders. There's a $7 billion share buyback program now underway from Uber. And the interesting move up there was that to a record high. Staying on the chart, just want to quickly update you as well on what's happening with some of these other companies, because this is Alphabet. Google, the Alphabet's become Wall Street's third most valuable company, worth almost $1.8 trillion, as it rises to a new high recently. The reason why we've seen this pullback here is because of other parts of the business, other parts of the largest companies in America. Apple, of course, the biggest. Microsoft in amongst the biggest, and Google, or Google owner Alphabet, is now the third largest company in the States. Let me just quickly take you through what's been happening with the markets as we seen this drop on Tuesday, now being eclipsed by the second in a row of gains on the 24-hour markets. Nasdaq up on the session today, indicating a stronger open when trade gets underway later on. And as we've just seen, gains on the Dow Industrials and a second in a row of gains, still not offsetting the big drop we saw on Tuesday for that pullback because of what's been happening in the background for the economy in the States. Talking about the economy, let's take a look in some more detail about what's been happening in Japan, because we saw a contraction in the fourth quarter, tipping the Japanese economy into recession. The preliminary reading contracted 0.4% in the fourth quarter compared with this time last year. We had been looking for a 1.1% rise. This is after a revised 3.3% slump in the July to September period, weaker than the median forecast. The Japanese Nikkei, as we've just seen, rising on the session today. And surprisingly, we've also got a gain as well for the Japanese yen. This is the dollar falling for a second day against the Japanese currency. Before we take a look at the UK technical recession, let's move on to what's been happening in Australia, because we've seen some important jobs data out there as well today, showing that employment was surprisingly weak in the month of July. Net employment rising just 500 in January from December, when it dived 62,800. Market forecasts have been for an increase of around about 30,000. There are a series of been very volatile in recent months. The unemployment rate has risen from 4% to 4.1%. And talking about surprise moves in the foreign exchange markets, in today's session, the Aussie has risen. We are now technically got a red candle there, but we had seen an earlier rise there today. And the market's overcoming what have been a second day in a row of gains. This is the Tuesday drop that we saw the Aussie in the strength, in the face of that stronger US dollar back on Tuesday. So the Aussie holding on to the gains that we saw in yesterday's session. But I want to take a look at what's happening here in the UK, because we've got a technical recession as well now here in the UK after a 0.3% drop in the economy in the fourth quarter, a contraction. It follows that drop of a negative 0.1% in the third quarter, which technically means that the UK is now in a recession. Despite that, we've got money going into the equity markets in today's trade. I want to show you what's happening on the foreign exchange markets. Fourth day in a row of losses for sterling against the US dollar. It's now below the 200-day moving average. Just show you the 5-minute candle just to show you what happened since the release of that data, with sterling on the way down in the face of that technical recession. GBP EUR, another area of the market to watch out for, as we see sterling fall there as well against the euro. Again, 5-minute candles, so showing you exactly what's been happening there with the drop since the top of the hour when we got that news coming through. Now, in amongst some of the other markets to watch out for in today's session, we got US weekly jobless claims at 1:30 this afternoon. But more importantly than that, and we'll be covering this in Beat the Street, is the 1:30 release of US retail sales. And for that, of course, we'll be looking at what's happening with the euro-dollar trade. In the last couple of days, we've seen a recovery for the euro. It's now risen back up above this prior line of support, 107.24. It had been some sort of headwind, but the markets are returning to some sort of performance for the euro in the last couple of days, taking us back up above that line. I'm going to take this off now, because this is going to be a distraction, I think, on this, depending on what happens in the next few days or so. Today at 1:30, we'll be following this trade in the wake of the release of US retail sales. We're now getting more and more evidence to suggest that the central bank in the States, the Federal Reserve, won't be cutting interest rates anytime soon. And it may now be July before we see an interest rate cut, according to some participants in the markets. Staying on the charts, just want to quickly run through a couple of companies that have been reporting earnings this morning. I want to begin, first of all, with this stock. It certainly could be good on the upside. This is Airbus. It's unveiled a special dividend and posting higher 2023 results, boosted by record aeroplane orders and higher deliveries, but dampened by fresh charges of 200 million euros in its troubled space unit. Despite that, could well see this company come up with a record high on the stock. Certainly, impacts would seem to be on the upside. We've got this trend in place for Airbus. I want to stay on the charts because I want to run through some other companies that are reporting earnings this morning. One of them is Commerzbank, company worth watching. Biggest profit in 15 years at Commerzbank, 2023, 55% increase from the prior year, benefiting from higher interest rates. The lender said it was aiming for another profit rise in 2024 as well. So it's a positive outlook for this stock. If you're long at 10.51, your stop goes underneath the underside of the 10 euro level, with a view to taking that stock up on the session in today's trade. Staying on the chart, just a couple of other companies worth looking at. Renault is another one. French automaker bouncing back into profit in 2023. Sales rising due to new models and price increases that helped to attain record margins. And the company's produced a net profit of 2.2 billion euros after suffering heavy losses in 2022, writing down its Russian assets. Again, another stock potentially on the upside. 37.65. If you're long on this, your stop goes underneath the 37 level with a view to taking that up as well. Car makers don't stop there either, because we've got Stellantis, another one, out with numbers today, delivering record net revenues, net profit, industrial free cash flows, all at record levels for the full year of 2023. Net revenues, 189.5 billion euros, up 6% compared to the previous year, with consolidated shipping volumes increasing by 7%. The global company, it operates and manufactures global brands all around the world. And it's also announced a 2024 open market share buyback program for 3 billion euros. This stock had previously been at a record high in the last couple of days, and I fully expect that potentially to go up again today. I was talking about the 40, Renault, Stellantis, Airbus, all producing these good figures. Staying on the chart, just wanted to wind the clock back as well. Take a look at this stock late last night. All sessions on the IG platform, the stock was down 4.5%. The company said it would cut 5% of its global workforce. Cisco Systems reporting earnings, but I think this really overshadowed the news. 4,000 jobs are going to go at Cisco. It's also lowered its annual revenue target. The company navigates a tough economy that's led to thousands of layoffs by tech firms this year. One of the reasons why we saw this drop wasn't just because of the layoffs and the poor environment. It's because the company cut its forecast as well for the current quarter from 53.8 billion down to 51.5 to 2 billion dollars. So negativity there cropping up as well for Cisco Systems. Now let's all out and take a look at what's happened later on today. We've got numbers out later on this evening from Coinbase. It's been a pretty good few months for cryptocurrencies, and Coinbase enjoyed a bit of a lift going into these numbers later on tonight. Let's take a look at the figures as we're expecting them to break. Earnings per share, loss expected at 6 cents. Consensus estimate for revenues, $731.9 million, indicating an increase of 16.3%, benefiting from lower transaction, technology and development expenses and higher stablecoin revenues. This, though, has been offset by a drop it's expected in consumer transaction values. Transaction revenues are likely to have declined due to a corresponding drop in consumer and institutional transactions. Coinbase, like Cisco Systems, trades all sessions on the IG platform. You can see this stock rising late yesterday, up 17 at $166.96. Staying on the charts, just wanted to round off a couple of other charts worth looking at. Second row losses for the price of oil, having hit a 3-week high yesterday's session, and little or no move from the recent lows for the price of gold, which trades still below the 2,000 level at 199.3.2. Not much move session there today. I think the headline for me today is really all about economy ahead of US retail sales at 130 today. UK and Japan both now in recession. Watching for those French automakers and Airbus that started today's trade across the European market, helping that French CAC to a record high in the 24 markets, looking for a stronger start to new records when the cash session opens at the top of the hour. We're back at 10:30.